We're continuing to follow breaking news out of college football, where Tennessee is parting ways with quarterback Nico Iamaleava. That's our latest from our Matt Zinitz. Volunteers coach Josh Heupel told the team this morning, of course, the storm has been brewing for at least the past week, with Iamaleava wanting to renegotiate his NIL deal with the Volunteers. That came to a head on Friday with the quarterback missing team meetings and their spring practice. Iamaleava has submitted his paperwork for the transfer portal, which is set to open Wednesday, leaving a lot of questions for both his future and also the future of Tennessee. Let's talk about the future of both as we welcome in our college football analyst, Chip Patterson. Chip, we were just joking before we come up here. The news never sleeps. What was your reaction to the news of Nico wanting to leave Tennessee and how this all played out?
Yeah, I think that for Tennessee, this is a remarkable statement. In an era where the players have continued to gain more power, more leverage, more ability to move around from school to school, the ability to earn based on your name, image, and likeness, all of which a lot of people, myself included, say have been a long time coming. Well, the power dynamics still exist with the coach and the program ultimately deciding who gets to play. And if Nico Iamaleava and his camp did approach Tennessee looking for a new deal, looking for more guarantees beyond what had already been agreed to, the fact that Tennessee would look at what they have in the quarterback room, what they have coming down the line in terms of the recruiting, and say, you know what, like, we appreciate everything that you have been. You got us to the college football playoff for the first time in program history, but your asks are too much. The idea that we are moving on, again, the phrasing and the verbiage we have here is really, really, really stunning, because it goes as yet another back and forth between the players, the coaches, the programs. So not shock, Haley, because of everything that we had heard from Thursday into Friday. I had sort of circled today's spring game. If Nico runs out of the tunnel, everything's okay. If Nico's not there, we probably have a problem on our hands with the transfer portal opening. But we get the news even before the spring game kicks off, Nico out the door and Tennessee moving on from their former five-star, high-profile quarterback signee.
And to your point, it is sort of stunning to see where we're at in college football, and now we have holdouts and all the NIL deals. It really is a new time and a new era in college football. We did have a chance to catch up with Matt Zinitz. He kind of gave us a couple of indications of where Nico could head. We know he's from California, so USC, UCLA maybe. What do you think would be good fits for him going forward?
Well, I mean, Haley, California is a big old state, but it gets even more local than that. So Warren High School, Downey, California, is a southern suburb of Los Angeles. So we're going to look first to the Los Angeles schools, but it's not just because of the Los Angeles schools being close to where he played his high school ball. It is because both of those Los Angeles schools, to differing levels, do have a big need at quarterback. Now, USC finished last season with Jaden Maeva after Miller Moss ended up getting replaced. Miller Moss hits the transfer portal. Lincoln Riley moves full speed ahead. They didn't add another quarterback, but we have to remember what has happened at USC, because USC recently got Chad Bowden from Notre Dame. Everyone looked at this. The new general manager of the Trojans was a high-profile hire in that director of player personnel general manager industry. Chad Bowden has been making USC a program that wants to rely heavily on the Los Angeles area and the California talent. What better statement would there be than to be able to go and land what is going to be the most high-profile transfer portal quarterback? That we don't know what Lincoln Riley's promise is, if there were any, to Jaden Maeva, but to my eye, Nico Iamaleava is an upgrade of Jaden Maeva. So you got to think that USC, looking for a bounce back after a disappointing year one in the Big Ten, would be in the market. UCLA also is even more quarterback needy than USC, so we're going to consider them as well for the regional standpoints. And I'll add just a couple others. Notre Dame has three pretty good quarterbacks, but the fact they haven't named one yet makes me think that they could be in the mix for one. Also, keep your eye on Oregon if they want to bring in more competition for Dante Moore, who has yet to really prove himself over a full season of being the starter. Texas Tech has more money than anybody, and they've been throwing it at everybody in the transfer portal. And the last one, Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. They have a quarterback room with no one who is on the readiness and talent level of Nico. And so that would be another one I'd keep an eye on in terms of quarterback neediness, the West Coast aspect of this for USC and UCLA, and then also the money to be able to spend, which might be a Texas Tech, North Carolina, Oregon, Notre Dame situation.
The Bill Belichick situation, they're very interesting because I don't need to tell anyone how successful he can be when he's got a great quarterback behind center. So we'll keep our eye on that, Chip. I want to pivot the conversation back to Tennessee, though, because it leaves them without a starting quarterback, or at least their expected starting quarterback. When you look at the depth chart, you've got a couple of guys on there, including the 4-star prospect in George McIntyre, but maybe not quite ready yet for that starting role. Do you think there's going to be any potential blowback for Tennessee as these players and these recruits try to figure out who is going to be the starter for Tennessee come kickoff later this summer?
Right, you've got Jake Merklinger, you've got George McIntyre, but to me, another piece of this equation is the fact that you've got the 5-star quarterback, Faison Brandon, coming down the line. And as Tennessee looks to what it has with all of those young players, they've got to feel really good, especially about 2026 and 2027. But what do you do in 2025? Which of these two players do you think would be able to go out there and be able to lead Tennessee to what I think is probably an 8-win, 9-win type ceiling this season? That's where I do think that you've got to imagine that they will at least be looking into the transfer portal, looking into any transfer portal options, because we have some very tightly contested quarterback battles at places like Notre Dame, where you could see one player end up hitting the portal. If Julian Sayin ends up getting Ohio State, does Lincoln Kienholz end up hitting the portal? At Oregon, you've got Dante Moore, you've got Austin Novosad, who might end up being someone who hits the portal if they do end up going with Dante Moore. That is what Tennessee is going to be doing, is they're going to be paying attention to what happens on Wednesday as these other starting quarterback battles end up getting a little bit more decided. Some quarterbacks hit the door, because the only thing, in my opinion, that Josh Heupel is going to be looking for is a bridge quarterback. Somebody who can come in and at least provide the veteran presence that you need going up against SEC defenses while, you're George McIntyre, while you prepare for Faison Brandon in the future. Again, the future of the quarterback position at Tennessee next year and beyond still looks great. But right now in 2025, I would imagine that instead of turning it over to one of those younger players, either Merklinger or McIntyre, they would at least entertain bringing in a veteran presence.
Yeah, I mentioned Bill Belichick being kind of a quarterback whisperer. We know Josh Heupel also has that same effect on his QB room, so I'm sure whoever they decide on will be in good hands there. Chip Patterson joining us with this breaking news. Nico Iamaleava is in the transfer portal after the team and Nico have parted ways. Make sure you check out the Cover 3 podcast. Ironically, on the most recent episode with Chip Patterson, the guys were talking about his contract talks there. So certainly an emergency episode, I'm sure, set to debut sometime soon. But in the meantime, get caught up with all your college football news. You can scan that QR code on your screen or listen wherever you get your podcasts.